If necessity is the mother of invention, that is still true in terms of teaching and learning in rural BC. I think that our districts face challenges that are really unique to our geographic circumstances and face a really different reality than our urban counterparts do. Just to give you a little bit of context, this is a map of our district. So we go as far south as Lytton, as far west over to Lillooet, and then even beyond we go to Seton Lake and Chalath, which is quite an adventurous drive, and as far north as Clinton. So we're a really small district. We have 1,100 students spread out over this amazingly vast geographical area, and the roads between it aren't always the most awesome to traverse. We face a lot of contextual challenges in our district. We have the fastest declining enrollment in the province. Some of our schools were in school closure in several of our areas just because we can't maintain our student population. Like I said before, we're just really geographically distant and we're isolated. And I'll show you a picture in the next slide of the perilous mountain travels. We have a limited peer group for students. Often you'll find students who have the same 3 to 4 or 10 to 15 students in their class from K to 12, and that's challenging for kids who are social beasts. We are also facing the reality at secondary levels that we have very small schools that are really unable to maintain teacher specialists. And our unfortunate reality for our kids is that a lot of secondary students will be reliant on some version of DL to fulfill grad requirements. Quite frankly, our DL rates are not awesome. In terms of teachers too, there are limited opportunities for collaboration in small and isolated communities in comparison to those in urban centers. So all of those factors kind of combine to face some serious challenges that we've worked really hard to address and that we continue to work really hard to address, and in kind of unique ways. So all of the goals that I've sort of tried to embrace in this project, and our district overarching goals, are based on a need, and that need is pretty dramatic where we live. So we're looking at ways to bridge geographical distances, and the way we thought we might be able to attempt that was through technology. We're also looking for ways to create new learning partnerships for both teachers and students, and to sort of expand those communities. And because our students are reliant on DL, and because they'll see it in the rest of their lives, and we just live in a kind of information technology age, we'd like to really prepare our students for digital learning experiences in high school and beyond, and really work on creating authentic learning communities despite distances. Like, how can we bridge these gaps despite these perilous drives and space and time between? And another highlight that we would really like to do is share practice between teachers who work within these new mediums. I think there's always a risk for teachers to exist as islands in their room, and I think when you teach in rural communities, when you may not always have opportunities to collaborate with people in your specialty area, or your school has 4 teachers in it, that it's really powerful to share practice with people who are within your district, even if they're far away. So here are my big questions for this course, and questions that I just face all the time in my daily work. How can we connect secondary learners, because we're looking at a secondary platform, across our district using technology to create really authentic learning communities and experiences between teachers and schools at distant sites? So we're looking at it twofold. How can we enhance the experience and bridge gaps for teachers and for students? And how can we do that using transformative technologies? And the second goal is just around the learning that will happen in these distant sort of virtual classrooms. How can rich collaborative opportunities and technology tools combine with sort of a project-based experience to foster student success and engagement within these connected learning contexts? We've seen things happen in the past where these sort of connected projects were very lecture-oriented, teacher-focused, and didn't have the success that we were looking at. So how can we transform the nature of these courses to make them highly engaging and really successful for our students? The course we'll be looking at and sharing is Digital Media Arts 11 and 12. And we structured this course to merge 3 separate high school digital media arts classes, and in each class is a teacher with a varying level/degree of digital media experience. We had a class in Lytton, Lillooet, and in Ashcroft. So how it kind of looked, just to give you context, teachers collaboratively plan the year and plan the learning via video conferencing lessons or trips or guests or project-based experiences. We kind of would come up with major assessment tasks and then we would divvy up the work in planning out the thematic units. We had a shared online space. We worked in a class blog together and we had some synchronous discussion happening not only on that blog but on the digital portfolios that students were creating that were just blow your mind amazing. And I think a major focus that sort of grew out on its own were the creation and sharing of student-made media content. It was just super powerful to see them have that authentic audience to put their work out there and to get feedback. And some shared experiences. I think that I'll touch on that as a layer that I think is often forgotten in virtual communities, that adding that depth of meeting someone as a human put a whole new context in our partnerships and learning relationships and really deepened it quite a lot. A colleague of mine had referred me to some reading. The first set that I had read was an article on professional learning communities by Carol Fulton and Dower in 2010, which was really powerful and sort of shifted my head the way I thought about collaborative planning, that while I really thought it was beneficial to me as a teacher and to my colleagues, it made me really switch gears and think that it's something that teachers can and should model for their students, that collaborative learning and the knowledge construction is really at the core of 21st century competencies. And if we are promoting that with our teachers, the project really hopes to promote that within our students. I had also read another piece by Brenda McCombs that was called The Culture of Collaboration. And it really hit home because when I thought of my growth as a teacher working on a collaborative team or many collaborative teams in the last few years, I do feel that she kind of nailed it on the head when she says a professional culture of collaboration enables teachers to become better educators collectively. So I think that it's true. I think that if you have a window into someone else's classroom and you see them in action every day and you plan with them and you have this team that you can be reflective with and grow with and set goals with and then step back for a minute and reevaluate and reflect on how that went and constantly have a sounding board, I think that you all grow together and in different ways. So when I looked at collaborative planning, it was the trickle-down effect for me. And I think that it has a lot of facets that do really great things for teachers and for students to see their teachers as team members and to see them working in some problem solving to suit their own unique sort of context. We tried to really structure our teaching this year as a departure from the way these connected learning classes have been different in the past. I think in the past there was designation between lead and support teacher, and the lead teacher would send out daily plans and you would connect every single day and you would hear a lesson and kids would listen in the other end. And we found that engagement really wasn't that high. It was like tuning into a YouTube video. We really made the shift this year to try to make the video conferences student-centered. So the bulk of the video conferences would be sharing tips from students that they, in the process of creation, or sharing the project that they have done and reflecting on how that was like to complete. We didn't have a lot of screen time as teachers, maybe aside from a few demos here of Photoshop or a unique skill that they were learning in video editing that day. But the shift to making them more student focused was challenging at first because I don't think our kids were used to engaging in that way, but once they started to share and get feedback from other students and respect that their work was high caliber, that really sort of shifted for us. And another problem that we'd had in the past was that everything was sort of a one-off day. It was lesson, notes, quiz. And it was really a challenge when you had 3 classes in 3 different communities where the pacing was vastly different. So we really tried to take a project-based approach where we would have check-ins, little demo here, worked with the class, little sharing here, worked with the class, where the focus was on creating a fantastic product as opposed to learning vague surface skills on a bunch of whole different projects. So while we didn't focus on that many monster performance tasks, the ones that we did were quite high caliber because we went deep into them. We had check-in points, and there was a lot of times where we didn't connect and students can just explore in their own class. So we tried to make it as organic as possible and really connect when it was driven by need to students or at a good sharing point for the work they've been creating. I think another highlight of the project is that we really worked on it and focused on the project respecting this interactive nature of our knowledge-based world, and that the world that our kids are going to today when they leave school really requires the ability to collaborate and innovate, and that requires people to interact in new ways, and I think a lot of those ways differ from our traditional modes of communication. They might use interactive technologies and project-based experience and collaborate with people at a distance on projects and on tasks. So I think that the way that we've sort of administered this course is quite reflective of the way that a lot of businesses would work, and is looking at skills that I think our students really need to survive in this new world. We found out that it was a crucial layer to share an online space, that because we weren't always connecting every day at the same time, that we couldn't see each other, and that sometimes the resolution when you're sharing things like Bridget desktop sharing software isn't the most amazing clarity, that a lot of our work focused on our blog. So we worked in a class blog together, and students actually posted to the blog. They had power to post. They would submit the most fantastic student submissions, and it really became a powerful place to share. We were receiving comments sometimes from teachers that weren't even in our course, and friends of mine on Twitter, or other students from the school who were excited about the learning that was happening. And at the same time, students also developed digital portfolios which were linked to the blog, and really invested in these. These became a really great space where you started to see some great ownership develop. They poured their hearts in it and their souls, and it was really cool to see them take ownership of their online space and be so excited to share it and receive feedback from others. So in digital media, we focused on a few things. We looked at photography, we looked at animation, we looked at a little bit at video. And over the course of the year, those students really learned to navigate digital software. And they learned to create a whole variety of multimedia content, but not just for the sake of creating, but for the purposes of collaboration, for sharing across the sites, and to demonstrate their learning in the way that makes sense for that given project. It really brought me back to a couple articles I had read, one from ZAM, one from Cookson, and there was a quote from ZAM that stuck out in my head as we were prepping for the course and then throughout, and it stated that advances in technology have changed the way we communicate with others, provided new methods in which we can engage in learning, and I think that they kind of nailed it there, and we really hope that through providing those opportunities, students would engage more deeply in their own learning, and that they could become masters of this new way, or at least work at becoming masters. The Cookson article that I referred to also stated that a new electronic learning environment is replacing the linear text-bound culture of conventional schools, and I completely agree, and we made the decision of the team to go on the opposite, that we're not text-bound, that we're not linear, that we're collaborative, that we're student-centered, and we'd hope that that would engage students who might have been uninterested before. The projects really provide an opportunity for a departure from a more traditional approach to learning and teaching. And our class is just so dramatically different. You don't see kids doing rote memorization rows. You see kids in groups with video conferencing screens in the background and chatting online at the same time, and texting a student from another class who had a skill in asking for support. So we really saw technology being used as a vehicle in the project to both promote and facilitate connections among students and among teachers, to both enhance digital literacy and to build connections. So I think that while technology was a really great factor in the initial engagement and motivation of the learners, and I mean it is rich to work with fantastic cameras and software, I think it's been the teaching and learning opportunities that have sustained the energy throughout the program. So while we use technology as a hook, I don't think it was tech for the sake of tech. I think it was technology for a purpose of collaborating and sharing and publishing.